Welcome to our first yoga class, our at-home edition brought to you by the Alaska Rock Gym. My name is Kimberly Greef, and today I'm bringing you an awaken class, one that will mobilize your rib cage, your shoulders, and hopefully leave you feeling awakened and opened and ready to move through your day. Let's begin with a moment or two of connection to our breath. Close your eyes. If you feel more comfortable keeping your eyes open, you're welcome to do that. Place one hand on your chest, one hand on your rib cage, right where your ribs come together at the top of your abdomen. Notice the movement underneath the hand that's on your belly, at the top of your belly. Bring as little movement as possible to the hand that's on your chest, as little movement as possible to the muscles of respiration in your neck. Open your eyes. Let's move into some nerve flossing. Bring one hand to your shoulder and the other hand out to the side. Tuck your chin towards your armpit and cascade your fingertips down towards the floor. This is the starting position. Then in a dynamic dance, you'll switch, capping your other hand onto your shoulder, turning your chin towards your armpit, reaching your fingertips towards the floor. We'll toggle back and forth. Our nerves are meant to slide and glide from the way they come out of the spinal column and branch down our appendages. Nerve flossing is a way of allowing that slide and glide to occur. You might notice there's some interesting sensations running from your forearms, up your arms, to your neck. Try not to get seduced by the stretch in any one place, but instead allowing yourself just to pay attention to it. Next, bring both hands to your shoulders and create circles with your elbows. Your hands can stay on top of your shoulders as each circle attempts to get a little bit wider than the one that came before. We come back to center and then reverse. Notice all sorts of snaps and crackles and pops. Your hands are on your shoulders and your shoulders are close to your ears. Don't worry about that. Next, you'll bring your arms out to the sides and make two strong fists. Create some tension in your arms that you can feel in your forearms and up your arms to your shoulders. Internally rotate both of your arms. It's like you're pouring two pitchers out, 2 cups of water out. And then externally rotate like you're pouring those pitchers straight back. Then we'll split this. Internally rotate one arm as you reach through the arm you're externally rotating, and switch sides. As you go back and forth, we're keeping it dynamic. So again, the movement is continuous. And at no point are you getting seduced by the stretch into staying and feeling, but rather allowing yourself to notice within the movement. And let that go. Return your hands palm face up on your thighs. You are welcome to close your eyes. as you track the sensation cascading down your arms, through your forearms, and into the palms of your hands. This ability to track what's happening on the inside while continuing to listen to the sounds that are around you, listening to the sound of my voice, is a way of resourcing and grounding into the present moment. We'll take that into our next piece, shoulder carves. Come up into a tall kneeling position. You can take a blanket, a towel, or a pad underneath your knees and ground down into Virasana. You can also take a block, put that between your legs, especially if you come into this position and you feel a little noodly in it. In shoulder carves, we'll keep the core relatively still and we'll keep rotation from occurring within the thoracic spine and in the rib cage. Bring your arm out in front of you and across your chest, and you can mirror me with this. I'm in that external rotated state, and my arm is adducted across the midline. Bring your arm up towards the sky into full shoulder flexion, making enough tension in your fist and your shoulder and your core that we can drive this movement to your shoulder. From here, you'll internally rotate your arm, spiraling it, and reaching it as far back towards the wall behind you as you can. As I do this, I continue to internally rotate so that the back of my hand is now touching the side of my thigh. We reverse the direction the way that we came, sweeping your arm back into internal rotation and extension, externally rotating, so I spiral my arm as it comes up and over, almost like you're throwing a ball. But now the arm comes across the body, and I'm attempting to rotate my arm and elbow pit towards the ceiling. I'm going to do that again. Reaching your arm up into shoulder flexion, rotating it out to the side, sweeping it back. And notice I'm moving super slow. I like to think of this like 1 mile per hour movement. Back of your hand touches your thigh or somewhere therein. Reach your arm back. Open it towards the sky. Still a lot of tension in your arm and fist and chest and core. Now when I bring my arm across the midline, I'll take my second arm and hook it just along my straightened arm. Here the motion is an outward push, like a backhand in tennis. So I push my arm into my arm. My other hand is catching it, keeping it from going anywhere. And I'm sucking the head of my upper arm straight back. It's kind of counterintuitive to what you may have been taught in this stretch, especially if you're used to pulling your arm really far across your chest. The action is opposing, or going opposite. Good, let that go, and switch sides. So make a strong fist with your other hand. Bring your arm up across the midline so you've adducted your shoulder. This is called a shoulder car. It's controlled articulate rotation. My arm comes up into full shoulder flexion. Then I internally rotate and spiral my arm as far back towards the wall behind me as I can. Again, moving at that 1 mile per hour movement. Pressing the back of the hand towards the thigh, and we reverse it. Straight back into internal rotation and shoulder extension. Opening into external rotation and all the way up towards shoulder flexion. And across the body in adduction and external rotation. It's a lot of work for me. I hope it's a lot of work for you too. If you're making that strong fist, and you're doing this work slow, and you're putting the boundaries on all aspects of your rib cage and spine, and your core is turned on, then yeah, it's gonna be a lot of work for you too. In this way, we get to explore our active range of motion. Our active range of motion is what we own. Our massive range of motion, shows us our potential. Here comes my arm across the midline. This is where we take the second arm, give it a job. It comes right into the straightened arm, and I'm attempting to push my arm out and away. Our joints are meant to be centrated, and especially at the hips and the shoulders. They're a ball and socket joint. Depending on the position you put your arms in, your shoulder might hang forward of that ball and socket. So shoulder cars are really great for bringing the joint back into centration, mobilizing all the muscles in all the different directions of what your shoulder is designed to do. We'll let that go. Let's start mobilizing the rib cage a little bit more. Come onto your hands and knees. In this quadruped position, I'm going to show it from the front first, and then I'll show it from the side. You're bringing your head forward like you could headbutt the wall in front of you, and at the same time you're reaching your tailbone back like you could plug your sit bones into the wall behind you. Slide one hand forward, and then bring the other hand up like you're going to air hug the ribs. Your elbow goes straight towards the ceiling. Reach your arm underneath your straightened arm. Your gaze follows. That's one. We have 4 more. Pulling your elbow straight back towards the sky, gaze towards the floor. Reaching your arm underneath, looking towards your palm. Notice my supporting arm is staying still the whole time. I'm going to show the last 2 from the side. Again, here, I'm getting my elbow to go towards the sky, reaching underneath, coming back through, and then we'll switch sides. Planting down through the palm, elbow towards the ceiling. You ought to feel a lot of work in your obliques, in your rib cage. Just have 5 of these. I lost count, so I'm doing 1 more for good measure. If I'm off and I've got to do a few more, you do a few more. Next, we'll go into monk lunge with wood choppers. I like the little extra padding underneath my knee. In a monk lunge, your front leg's at a 90 and your back leg is at a 90. You can add a little posterior tilt in your pelvis here so that in this position, your hip's not rising towards the sky, nor is it bumping out to the side. So you'll do your best to draw that down towards the floor. Bring your 2 hands in front of you, and I like to imagine that I'm chopping wood with this. My hands are the blade of an axe. You'll rotate down and towards the floor. Your 2 hip points, they're still facing forward. That's 1. We'll do 4 more. I like to do the wood choppers with my exhale being the point in which I rotate. Here's where things change. Curl your back toes under, and I'll switch to the side so you can see this from the side angle. But your wood chopper comes down and you hold. From here, you'll open your arms up like a capital T, tilt back, and some of you will be able to bring your fingertips to the inside of that back heel. If that's the case, press your hand into your heel and your heel into your hand. At the same time, try to drag the knee that's on the floor forward and the foot that's on the floor back. If you can't reach your heel, you'll get plenty out of this, holding steady here. My core is working strong to suspend me in this shape. And then rising back up and switching sides. Monk lunge on the second side. Bringing your foot forward, your other foot back. Your toes can stay curled under on that back foot, or you can press the top of your foot down. Your choice. Draw your hip down towards the floor. I didn't mention this on the first side, but if your femur and your leg ratio is such that you come into this shape and you can't help but hip bump, you're welcome to rise up onto a block. And sometimes this quite literally levels the playing field of the hips. So I always feel like I have a little bit more control being elevated up on the block. You are welcome to do that, or move it aside and work with your knee down on the ground. I did it on the first side this way, so I'm going to do it on the second side this way as well. Hip down, hands up, frontal hip points like headlights, the beams moving forward. See if you can time your exhale for the rotation. Down. The inhale to spring back to center. 4 more. Next one, we go into a hold. I'll show this from the side. You're still on the same side in your monk lunge. As you come into this, your back toes are curled under now. Dropping your hip down towards the floor. Come through your wood chopper and open your arms like a capital T. That back hand might come to the inside of your heel. It's actually the outside of your heel. And you're pressing your fingertips into your heel and your heel into your fingertips. If that's not the case, you can stay in this big, broad wingspan, attempting to drag your back leg forward and your front leg back. It's a lot of work holding this static position. I'm going to show what it's not for a moment. So if you're used to always going further in your yoga class, you might find that this is where you want to go, or it's a familiar shape. Coming up out of that, keeping all of the boundaries on, you get a little bit more core work out of this, and you get a little bit more of your active range instead of dumping into a passive range. Good, come on out of that. The next one I'll show from the side and then front on. These are pose of a child, shoulder cars. So in this position, my hips come down towards my heel, and my hands are out in front of me. This kind of position allows me to lock down my lower back and pelvis, and not translate any of the shoulder work to my lower back or my ribs. So in this position, I give myself the thumbs up, and I make a pretty good strong fist here, allowing the muscles of my forearm and upper arm to engage. I'm going to make this chubby double chin, where I'm pulling my chin back and up, so that I don't let my head dump down towards the floor. It's not the sexiest look, but it sure is effective, and great for getting your head to go back onto your shoulders. So here comes the movement. Lifting your arm into shoulder flexion. Reaching your arm like you're giving the thumbs down as you sweep it back towards the wall behind you, and as high towards the sky as you can. You might even be able to see I am trembling with this. And if you're doing it right, you probably are too. I externally rotate, so I'm giving myself the thumbs up as I sweep my arm back down and around towards the floor. I'm going to switch sides. Thumbs up on the other side. Chubby double chin, tuck your chin in. Reach your thumb towards the sky. Open your arm towards the wall behind you. Reaching it as high up towards the sky as you can. Hold steady there. Right? Slow 1 mile per hour movements. You're now opening your arm into this external rotation, sweeping it all the way around. So much work. And then setting your hand down. Next, we'll come into a low locust hover. So lay down on your belly, And then before I go into that move with you, I'm just gonna have you press the tops of your feet down into the floor. In a moment, you'll rest your head onto the back of your hands and lift your elbows in your hands. I want you to send a posterior tilt into your tailbone, anchoring your pubic bone down into the floor as you do this move. So it's not a huge translation to your low back to do this small back bend, but we drive more of the back bend higher up the spine. Sometimes there's shaking with this, and if you find that you try to jerk yourself really high up, I'd like you to come down, reset, and just do the low hover for now. Here we go. Forehead on the back of your hands. Anchor your feet down on the floor. Send your tailbone towards your heels. Lift your elbows and your forehead off the floor. Your hands are hovering. Your elbows are hovering. Your forehead is resting down onto the back of your hands. Stay in your hover, but sweep your arms out to the sides of the room. Rotate your palms like they were going to touch the backs of your hands towards each other. Your palms are facing out. Squeeze your shoulder blades onto your back and find that same little chubby double chin by pulling your chin back. From here, turn your palms towards the floor. Lift your arms as high as they'll go. Bend your elbows. Place your palms down on the mat. Curl your toes under. Inhale. As you exhale, push yourself away from the floor, high plank position. Bend your knees, lift your seat, make your way into long dog. In long dog, you're working on the priority of your spine versus trying to get your heels to the ground. So it kind of looks like a hip hinge that has fallen forward on itself. Rise up onto your toes, dock your knees down onto the floor. Grab your padding and place that underneath your knees. Round the world camels. These are among my favorite ways of integrating side bends, twists, and back bends. If you cannot touch your heels in this, grab your blocks. You can set them up on either side of you. So in the round the world camel, you come down onto your block instead of your heel. I'll show what that looks like first, and then I'll show what it's like without the blocks. And you choose the variation that works best for you. My frontal hip points are pointing forward. I sweep one arm across the body, kind of like our shoulder car. And here I am in that very same shape that we were in at the very beginning of class after our wood choppers. Then my hips come down towards my heels. I bring my hand to the block, sweep the other arm up and overhead. And then it's rinse and repeat. So here's what it looks like without the blocks. My hand comes to the inside of my heel, and I'm working on rotating and opening. Hold for about a 3-second pause. Slow and controlled, hip comes towards your heels. Hand to the inside of the opposite ankle. You're coming up and over. Press your hand into your heel into your hand. Get a few more rounds of that. Pointing your toes towards the wall behind you. Sitting in Virasana with your hands palm face up on your thighs. You can close your eyes or keep them open, but bring your attention back to the place where your ribs meet the top of your belly, where your hand comes onto your chest. Notice if it's a little easier to sense the movement of your diaphragm as it moves in and down towards the belly. You might sense a lot more mobilization in that place where the ribs meet the upper belly. Twists, side bends, rotations, they all have a way of mobilizing the diaphragm. And the diaphragm as a coast is clear muscle. It's not something that you can think to relax. It's something that you relax through your movements. Dynamic movement, like round the world camel, is a great way to mobilize this area, using the intelligence of the body to modify the mind. Go ahead and move your pad aside. And have a seat with your feet out in front of you. We'll do a little bit of 90 and 90 to help mobilize the hips and go a little further into some of that rotation and reaching. Bring your hands behind you and drop your knees down towards the floor. Think of a 90-degree angle with the back leg and a 90-degree angle with the front leg. I'm going to lift my ankle and my knee, my foot, and then bring it back down towards the floor. In this opening and closing of the back leg, my other leg is staying quite still. Now I'll take this leg, open it all the way up, and the trailing leg comes over for the second side. You may have to reorganize the shape of your legs a little bit, but the idea is the same. The leg down on the ground is staying heavy as the other one opens and closes. This range of motion is external range of motion, within hip flexion. Now we'll go from side to side, rotating your knee towards the floor, then the other side. So notice my hands are behind me for this first couple rounds. You are welcome to stay here. If you'd like to challenge yourself a little bit more, try sitting up and going slow and controlled through this range without locomoting yourself forward or back on your mat. Good. Swing your back leg forward and lay down on your back. In this position, we'll windshield wipe the legs back and forth. So take your feet a little bit wider than hips distance apart. You can bring one knee down towards the floor and then the other. If your feet are too close together in this, it'll be a little bit challenging on different parts of your ankles and knees. Taking your feet a little bit wider, well, then we get a little bit higher into the hips. Next time your knees come down so that your right knee is towards the midline, take your left ankle on top of your right knee. If that weight causes discomfort, you can always unhook that or take a block and place it underneath to support the inside right leg. Your other arm reaches up and overhead, grabbing a hold of your wrist. And we're looking to create length along the whole side of your rib cage. Release your hand from your wrist, your ankle from your knee, windshield wipe over to the other side, and hook your ankle on top of your knee. Again, if that extra weight doesn't work for you, don't do it. You could also change the angle of the bottom leg to accommodate the pressure of the top leg on it. Reaching your arm up and overhead, grabbing a hold of your wrist. And then as you reach your knee away from the midline, you're simultaneously lengthening your arm back. Unhook your ankle from your knee. Windshield wipe your legs back to center. Straighten your legs towards the front of your mat and pull one knee in towards your chest. Bring your hand on top of your knee and guide your leg across the midline. This laying down spinal twist, you may not have noticed it, but I shifted my bottom hip underneath me so that my top hip is stacked on top of my bottom hip. For those of you at home trying to figure out where you are in space and you don't have the eyes of me or another of your favorite teachers on you in this, you can take a block right to the back of your hips and then scoot both sides of your butt to the block, and that's going to give you a really good indication of where you are in space. Keeping your knee in close to your chest, then reaching your arm out to the side. If you find that your hip migrates slowly towards your rib cage in this, you could play with depressing your hip towards the bottom of your mat, if that feels good for you. But come on out of that and switch sides. So again, your knee comes in towards your chest, hand to the outside of your knee. I do a little lift and shift to bring me into the twist, and then stacking the block along my backside so that my bottom hip touches the block. Your other arm comes out. If you needed to, you could migrate your hip down away so that your low back stays long here. Releasing that, making your way into final Shavasana. So today we have a three-part squeeze and let go, a way of helping you just find that point of relaxation a little bit quicker. Again, using the intelligence of the body to modify the mind. From here, inhale through your nose. The top of your inhale, suspend your breath. Squeeze your toes, your calves, your thighs, your glutes. Squeeze your hips, contracting. And exhale, let go. Give yourself permission to truly let go. Waiting for every last little muscle fiber to release its grip from your feet, your calves, your thighs, and your glutes. Second round. Inhale through your nose. Suspend your breath. Squeeze your hands, your arms, your chest, your belly, your core. Squeeze your upper body. Strong tension. Exhale, let it go. Breathing through your nose as you wait for your entire body to truly soften its grip. Third round. Inhaling. Suspend your breath. Squeeze your eyes. Scrunch up your face. Open your mouth. Stick out your tongue. And exhale, let go. In your final Shavasana, after a few moments of being here, your breath will slow. Your mind might soften. Your eyes relax back from your eyelids. And as you rest here, sensing the aliveness and the wakefulness within, might show up as the rush of your circulatory system. Pulse of your heart. The rise and fall of your inhale and exhale. And shift your attention from the aliveness of your own body to the aliveness around you. Listening to the sounds within the room that you're in. Listening to the sounds outside of the room that you're in. Sensing the temperature of the air on your skin. You are welcome to rest here in Shavasana another 5 to 10 minutes. And when you're ready to come up, bring movements to your fingers, movements to your toes. Reawakening to the aliveness within you, interacting with aliveness around you. Take your feet flat to the floor, roll onto one side, and slowly make your way back up to sitting. Thank you for joining me in practice today. Bring your hands to your heart in Anjali Mudra, allowing your thumbs to rest against your sternum and your fingers to fan out away from that space. May this gesture represent the work that you do on the inside, and may that radiate out into the rest of your day. Thanks for joining me in practice. Namaste.